The email came through at 2:13 a.m., the desert air rattling the thin walls of our barracks at Camp Bear like a ghost shaking its chains. I was sitting on my bunk, boots still caked with sand from the day's patrol, when my laptop chimed. I thought it was just another update about shift rotations or a change in supply drops. Instead, it was a subject line that sliced straight through my gut. "Let's be adults about this." Attached was a cold, sterile PDF file, 3 sentences. "Ethan, I'm filing for divorce. I've moved out. I've taken our savings. No explanations, no apologies. Just a clean surgical strike, severing 14 years of marriage like cutting a rope on a sinking ship. My name is Ethan Brooks. I'm 44 years old, Staff Sergeant with the 101st Airborne Division, 15 months into another tour overseas. I've built my life around discipline, loyalty, and the kind of silent endurance that men like me don't brag about because it's just expected." I stared at the screen for a full minute, the words burning into my brain like a brand. Around me, the world slept. I didn't curse or punch the wall. I stood up, walked across the dusty floor to the communal showers, and let freezing water hammer against my shoulders until my skin was raw. When I returned to my bunk, Wilson, my bunkmate, looked up from his battered paperback. His eyes met mine for a second. No questions, no punishment, just a nod. The kind you give a man who's just been shot but refuses to fall. "Just some stuff back home," I muttered. He nodded once and went back to his book. "Out here, everyone has stuff back home, stuff you can't fix from 1,000 miles away, stuff you learn to lock away in the same compartment you store fear and regret." I didn't respond to Amanda's email right away. I let it sit there, coiled and poisonous, daring me to touch it. At 300, I opened my laptop again. I typed a single word. "Understood." I hit send. No pleading, no anger, no bargaining, just a full stop, the kind of silence that says more than shouting ever could. She thought she had blindsided me. She thought she had ended the story. But what Amanda didn't know was, I'd been preparing for this moment all along. I met Amanda Carson at a backyard barbecue in Austin, Texas, back in 2009, when life still felt like something you could hold on to with both hands. I was home between deployments, staying with my buddy Jason, drinking cheap beer out of plastic cups, and trying to remember what it felt like to be a regular civilian. Amanda wasn't flashy. She wasn't the loudest or the prettiest girl at that party, but when she laughed at something stupid I said about burnt brisket, it was like hearing a song you hadn't realized you missed until it played again. She was finishing up nursing school at the time, ambitious but grounded, and she liked that I had a sense of direction. I liked that she didn't bat an eye when I said I was career Army. Most girls back then would flinch at the idea of marrying a man who'd be gone half the time. Amanda just smiled and said, "Sounds like you know who you are. That's rare these days." 8 months later, we were married in a tiny chapel with bad acoustics but good intentions. I wore my dress blues. She wore her mother's wedding dress, altered to fit. It was simple, honest, everything a man like me could hope for. We bought a modest 3-bedroom house on the outskirts of San Antonio, a little stretch of land where the neighbors waved at you in the mornings, and you could still see the stars at night. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Thanks to my VA loan, my name was the only one on the mortgage at first. Later, wanting to be fair, I added Amanda to the deed, because that's what you do when you trust someone. You share the weight. When my parents passed, Dad from a heart attack while clearing snow off the driveway, Mom a few years later from lung cancer, despite never smoking a day in her life. They left me enough to pay off Amanda's student loans and set aside a decent cushion for the future. I never thought twice about it. You don't hold back from your family. You give everything you've got. Over the years, I deployed 4 more times. Iraq twice, Afghanistan once, then Kuwait. Every time, coming home felt a little different. Amanda always tried it first, picking me up at the airport with a poster board sign or planning a barbecue with friends. But the smiles faded faster each time. The laughter sounded a little more forced. Being married to a soldier I knew wasn't easy. It was a lot of lonely birthdays, missed anniversaries, silent nights filled with more worry than sleep. Amanda said she understood that when we married. Maybe she did, or maybe she just thought she could learn to live with it. Either way, the cracks started forming long before either of us admitted it. One night after dinner, about 6 months before my last deployment, she looked at me across the table and said, "I didn't sign up to live like this forever, Ether." I just nodded. What could I say? The army wasn't just my job, it was my identity, my stability, my contribution to something bigger than myself. I thought love meant being patient, being willing to endure the hard seasons. I didn't realize then that for Amanda, patience had an expiration date. But back then, sitting across from her, I still believed we were stronger than circumstance. That commitment was enough, that the foundation we'd built could weather anything. I couldn't see then that a slow erosion had already started. Quiet, steady, like water carving through stone, and soon enough, there would be no house left standing at all. Back then, I thought we'd built something unbreakable, but cracks were already forming. It started with little things, the kind of changes you almost convince yourself not to notice. Amanda began working late more often. Her stories about the dental office where she handled admin duties got shorter, vaguer. Just a lot going on, she'd say, brushing off questions like dust on her jeans. Then there were the gym sessions, 3 nights a week, always right after dinner. But her body never changed, no soreness, no new routines, no goals. She bought new clothes, the kind she never wore around me. She stopped asking about my day. Our phone calls during deployment grew shorter, more mechanical. Quick updates, no laughter, no warmth. I'd ask what she was up to, and she'd reply, nothing really. Like the life she was living had nothing to do with me anymore. But I'm not stupid, and I'm not blind. I didn't press, I didn't accuse. That's not my way. My father taught me never to speak without certainty. So I did what soldiers do when the terrain starts to feel off. I adjusted. Quietly, I secured the documents that mattered, birth certificates, the house deed, the VA paperwork, and locked them away in a storage unit on the other side of town, under my name only. I opened a separate bank account with a different institution. Nothing drastic, just a portion of my direct deposit each month. Small enough not to trigger questions, but enough that I wouldn't be left standing on ashes if things burned down. I even moved a few sentimental things, my grandfather's old watch, my mom's silver bracelet, into that same storage unit. Amanda never asked where they went. That told me more than words ever could. And yet, despite the growing list of red flags, I didn't confront her. Maybe I still hoped I was wrong. Maybe I was afraid that saying it out loud would make it real. The night before I deployed, she hugged me at the airport like someone hugging a colleague, not a husband. Her eyes were dry, her voice steady. Stay safe, okay? I said I would. She turned and walked away before I could say anything else. And that was it. 14 years, reduced to a silent walk down a terminal hall. I should have known then. Hell, part of me did. But the truth is, sometimes you'd rather live with suspicion than face confirmation. Because suspicion lets you hope, and I wasn't ready to let go of hope. Not yet. I saw the storm brewing on the horizon, but I underestimated its fury. 2 weeks after I arrived in Kuwait, I was in the mess hall eating reconstituted eggs and overcooked sausage when my phone buzzed. Notification from our bank app. Withdrawal alert. $88,500, 0 cents gone. I froze, my fork hung in midair. I opened the app, heart pounding like incoming mortar fire. The joint account balance was down to $22.37. Every cent of our savings wiped clean. I sat back in my seat, staring at that number like it could somehow be reversed just by blinking. Around me, guys were laughing about something on a portable speaker, talking about home, football, anything but this. I felt like the only person in the world whose entire life had just collapsed, and no one could hear it over the sound of their own breakfast. That night, I waited until the phones were free and called the bank using the secure line. The rep on the other end was polite, professional. She told me there had been multiple transfers over the past month, most of them starting the day after I deployed. The account that the money had gone to wasn't one I recognized. I hung up without thanking her. There was nothing left to say. The hallway outside the phone center was quiet. I stared at the beige wall, counting cracks in the paint like they were faults in my own judgment. That's where Wilson found me. Heard you looked like hell at dinner, he said. What's going on? I paused, then answered flatly. Amanda drained our accounts, sent divorce papers last week, moved her new boyfriend into the house. Wilson didn't flinch, didn't say sorry, just nodded once. What's your plan? Not sure yet. Let me know if you need anything. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bunk, staring at the ceiling, the hum of the air unit whispering like ghosts in my ear. Around 200. I grabbed my laptop, logged into our home security system. Amanda had probably forgotten I could access it remotely. I pulled up the feed. There was a truck I didn't recognize in the driveway. A man, young, athletic, walked our dog. My dog. He sipped coffee from my Seahawks mug, wore my old hoodie. There she was, Amanda, laughing with him in the kitchen. I remodeled by hand during my last leave. Something inside me didn't snap, it froze. I wasn't angry, not yet. Anger is loud, chaotic, sharp. Like a scalpel. I made a list, call James, an army buddy turned lawyer, check VA loan documents, look into the home deed, update beneficiary info, prepare for emergency leave request. It wasn't about revenge, not yet. It was about control, about reclaiming the space where my life used to be. At 500, I sent James an email with the subject line, "Need legal help, urgent and discreet." An hour later his reply came, "Call me, secure line only." When I hung up from that call, I knew this wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was war, and I knew how to fight wars. She thought she had wiped me out completely, but she had overlooked one crucial detail. By the time the sun came up over the Kuwait horizon, I wasn't thinking about heartbreak. I was thinking about strategy. I'd spent 2 decades planning missions, evaluating risks, assessing weaknesses. This wasn't any different. It just happened to be personal. James picked up on the first ring. He didn't ask how I was. I laid it out clean. Amanda had drained our accounts, moved in a guy named Tyler Simmons, and I suspected she had taken out a loan against the house I'd bought with my VA benefit. James didn't waste time with pity. "First, let's get your name clear on the property." "You said your name was the only one on the VA loan." "Yeah," I said, "but I added her to the deed after we got married." "We'll start there," he said. "If she refinanced that property without your knowledge, and if your signature was forged, we've got leverage." He asked me to send over copies of every document I had. The original mortgage, marriage license, the home deed, our bank activity, and a few other details I hadn't considered, like who she listed as emergency contact on the refine. I had a file ready in under 2 hours. Organization is second nature in combat zones. After that call, I filed for emergency leave through my commanding officer. Didn't mention the details, just said it was family, critical. It would take a few weeks, but I'd be stateside before she could finish whatever it was she'd started. I accessed our insurance records. Sure enough, she'd removed me as her beneficiary and replaced it with Tyler S. I reported the change as fraudulent. Then I called the bank that had handled the last refinance on the house and requested confirmation of signature. They refused, citing privacy. I smiled. That refusal told me everything I needed to know. People only hide behind privacy when there's something worth hiding. That evening, I received another security alert from the home system. Motion detected. I opened the camera feed and watched Tyler walk into the garage and drive off in my truck. It was still registered in my name, still insured under my account, and he was using it like it belonged to him. It was a strange moment, watching a stranger drive off in a life I built, with a woman I married from a house I paid for. I didn't feel rage, I felt precision, controlled, calculated. I began documenting everything, dates, images, texts, account activity. I uploaded it all to a shared legal folder for James. The more I uncovered, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't impulsive, it was methodical. Amanda hadn't just fallen in love with someone else. She had planned this, moved money in stages, changed insurance, signed documents, shifted the chessboard while I was halfway around the world trusting her to guard the home front. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just betrayal, it was theft, and I wasn't about to let it go unanswered. If Amanda believed the fight was over, she was about to realize it had only just begun. 2 weeks later, I touched down in San Antonio under a cloudy Texas sky, carrying nothing but a duffel bag, a burner phone, and a fire in my chest that hadn't cooled since Amanda hit send on that email. I didn't go home. I checked into a motel near I-35 under an alias James had arranged, then met him at a diner outside the city. He slid a folder across the boon table. "Everything we discussed," he said, and sent something extra. Inside was a refinance application. My name was there, but it wasn't my signature. Whoever forged it had copied the shape well, but missed key details. The stroke pressure, the middle initial, even the spacing. It was a mimicry, not a match. "Amanda did this?" I asked, though we both knew the answer. James nodded. 3 months ago, used the house's equity to pull out $310,000, 0 cent. The co-applicant listed? Tyler Simmons. My hands tensed around the edge of the folder. That house had been in my name for over a decade. It was supposed to be the one thing solid, the place I would always return to. Now it was just another crime scene. What are my options? Several, James said matter of fact. First, we report the forged signature to the loan officer and the bank's fraud department. Second, we file a police report. Third, we notify the county clerk to prevent any sale or title transfer. She can't unload that property without triggering legal alarms. I nodded. We moved fast. By noon, I was sitting across from the bank's loan officer, showing him my military ID, my valid signature, and the forgery they'd accepted. His face went pale. "We'll need to escalate this internally," he said. "You're not the first," I replied coldly. "But I'll make sure I'm the last." That evening, Amanda sent a text to my old number. "Why is the bank calling me? Did you do something?" I didn't reply. The next morning, James called. "The refinance money's been frozen, but there's a catch. Some of it's already gone." "How much?" "Roughly $14,600.00. Multiple transfers made to someone named Daniel Spencer." "Who the hell is that?" "Daniel Spencer, real estate agent. Specializes in quick sales. No listing paperwork yet, but the pattern's familiar. Amanda and Tyler were prepping the house to be sold, probably below market value. Spencer has history with Tyler. They've closed 3 deals together in the last 2 years. The dots began connecting faster than I could write them down. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a con, a rehearsed, repeatable scam targeting people like me, deployed, distracted, trusting. "We need to go bigger," James said. "I've contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. This crosses state lines, involves forged federal documents, and VA loan abuse. They're interested." The next day, I met with agents Patel and Donovan at the FBI's San Antonio field office. I laid everything out: the email, the forged refinance, the transfer trail, the security footage, the signature discrepancies. They took notes, asked precise questions. Patel flipped through the file. "You said you were deployed when this was signed?" "Kuwait. I have full orders and duty logs. I wasn't even in the country." Donovan nodded. "This helps. It proves you couldn't have been present. Makes the fraud case before I left." Patel looked up. "Don't contact Amanda or Tyler directly. We need them unaware while we build this." I agreed. I had no interest in confrontation. I didn't want screaming or scenes. I wanted justice. And I was willing to let it unfold, slow and surgical. The more I dug, the uglier the truth became, and the higher the stakes grew. 2 days after my FBI meeting, Amanda texted again. "We need to talk, please." I didn't respond. That same afternoon, security footage from the house pinged my phone. The driveway camera showed a black SUV pulling in. Daniel Spencer stepped out, clipboard in hand, and was greeted by Tyler. They shook hands like old partners closing another quiet deal. I called James immediately. "They're listing the house." "Let them," he said. "We've already flagged the title with the county clerk. Any transaction triggers automatic investigation. This is exactly what the FBI needs, real-time activity." We stayed on the line as I pulled up the interior feed. Spencer and Tyler walked through my living room, pointing at fixtures I'd installed myself, my sweat, my tools, my time. I turned up the volume. Spencer's voice came through clearly. "We'll list at 470. Expect a cash offer around 420. Should close quick if the guy doesn't get in the way." Tyler laughed. "He's Army, still overseas. I've got power of attorney through Amanda." Spencer nodded. "Good. Military guys don't usually fight it. They're too busy being noble." I could hear James scribbling. "We got them. Wire fraud, conspiracy, impersonation." I forwarded the live feed straight to Agent Patel. The response came 10 minutes later. "Understood. We're moving in." 30 minutes later, I parked 2 blocks from the house and watched as 3 unmarked FBI vehicles pulled up. Agents fanned out with quiet efficiency. Spencer and Tyler were let out in cuffs, still mid-conversation, confusion turning to panic the moment they realized it wasn't just a regular real estate visit. Amanda pulled into the driveway minutes later. She froze when she saw the flashing lights. I didn't approach. I just watched, from a distance, like a man watching the final scene of a movie he didn't write, but had lived through. That evening I met Patel and Donovan again. "You just cracked open a pattern," Patel said. "We've been tracking these 2 for months. They've targeted at least 10 other military families. Same playbook: woman left alone, manipulated into thinking her spouse is hiding money, quick finance, under-the-table house sale, split the profits, then vanish. Amanda, I asked. Still evaluating, Donovan replied. So far, she claimed she didn't know Spencer and Tyler were running a scam, that she just wanted to start over, but her level of involvement unclear. I didn't say anything. I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. Justice was being served, but satisfaction? That was something else entirely. A week later, Amanda's lawyer reached out. She was willing to sign a full settlement, no claim to the house, pension, or frozen funds. She'd also sign a sworn statement confirming the forged signature. In exchange, I wouldn't press charges. I agreed, not for her sake, but because I was done. I didn't want to spend another minute reliving the wreckage. The divorce finalized 6 months after that first email. Clean break, no fault. Neatly typed signatures on an emotionless document. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent my life serving something greater, only to be undone by someone who couldn't see value in loyalty unless it came with a return policy. What started as a personal betrayal was unraveling into a full-blown criminal conspiracy. A year after the divorce was finalized, I sold the house. I couldn't live there anymore. Every wall echoed with betrayal. Every corner held the shadow of a man who once believed commitment was enough. I took the proceeds and bought a small cabin outside Asheville, North Carolina. 2 bedrooms, 10 acres of land, a creek running behind the property. No neighbors within shouting distance, just trees, wind, and silence. I named my German Shepherd Scout, because that's what he became, my companion, my lookout, my reminder that loyalty still exists in this world, even if it has 4 legs. I retired early from the army. 20 years was enough. I'd served, I'd endured, I'd rebuilt. Now it was time to live on my terms. I started doing part-time carpentry work for locals, porch repairs, handrails, the occasional custom table, work that kept my hands busy and my mind quiet. My military pension covered the rest. Some days I'd get a letter or an email forwarded by James, families the FBI had helped using my case as precedent. One came from a woman in Florida. My husband was overseas when they tried the same thing. Your story stopped them. Thank you. I pinned that one to my refrigerator, not because I needed validation, but because, on the hard days, it reminded me that something good had come from all of it. Last I heard, Tyler took a plea deal, 5 years for wire fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. Daniel Spencer got 7. Amanda moved back to Lubbock, started over, I guess. I don't hate her anymore. I don't think about her much at all. Sometimes I wonder if she ever thinks about me, about the life we built, the promises we made. But mostly I just breathe, one quiet breath at a time. There's no dramatic, no revenge speech, no triumphant return. Just a man who walked through fire, came out the other side, and built a life that can't be stolen, forged, or sold. A life that is mine, entirely. Sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't winning a battle. It's choosing peace over chaos,